We welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen. I greet you all in the name of our Lord. Thank you so much for availing yourself, for coming once again and taking heed of our call for this press conference. We are here gathered to deliver a press statement which is based on what is happening on the political spectrum in the country. So we were here on the 15th of January for the first press conference which we held here. So we are calling this one a second series of our press conference. It is going to be delivered in a way that the nation should be informed. So I'm going to introduce you to our members or a panel from National Democratic Working Group, which is actually an organization which is established on the basis of reaching out to the masses and re-establish the democratic philosophy and principles. So to start with, on my left side, we have got Mao Nikadzino. He's one of our members in the information department. And immediate on my right is Engineer Mogari Johnson. He's our Chief National Organizer for National Democratic Working Group. He's one of the victims of 8th February arrest in Mutare at Penalonga. And then immediately after Engineer Mugari, we've got Dr. Uraya Zembe. He's our Northern Region facilitator who covers mainly Manicaland, Mashonaland, Harare and Chitungiza in terms of representing our organization. So from Dr. Zembe, we've got on the far right, Blessing Gomo, who is our international relations and diaspora affairs representative. So I'm handing over this press conference to our key man who is actually delivering the press statement, Dr. Uraya Zembe. Over to you, Dr. Uraya Zembe. However, we'll give you the question and answer segment where we are going to ask, where the media is going to ask questions. We take 3 questions at a time, and you introduce yourself and your organization, where you're coming from. Thank you very much. You can take over.
Thank you, Chair. Randawana. Today's theme is as follows. Rejection of Emerson Mnangagwa's 2030 life presidency agenda intensifies in Zimbabwe. As has been already alluded to by the chair, this is a follow-up to the presser we held here on the 15th of January, 2025. It's important to throw some underlying importance to the current theme. The theme is the rejection of Emerson Mnangagwa's 2030 life presidency agenda intensifies in Zimbabwe. And I underline, intensifies in Zimbabwe. That is the theme of today's presser. Welcome to you all once more, members of the Fourth Estate, to this important press conference following the one that we held on the 15th of January at this same venue. The NDWG stands hand in glove with all the progressive forces calling for immediate transformational change in Zimbabwe. As you now all know, the legitimate activities of the National Democratic Working Group were banned by Emerson Mnangagwa's dictatorial and illegitimate regime on 8 February 2025 in Mutare. That activity was banned. That is the importance of that statement there. The illegitimate ZANU-PF regime's ZRP riot police invaded and disrupted our peaceful leadership private meeting in Penalonga, Mutare, and arrested 41 executive members of our organization who were attending the NDWG meeting at Beats of the Forest Resort. We were exposed to torture, inhuman and degrading treatment before we were thrown into holding cells at the Penalonga Police Station and later transferred to Mutare General Police Station. Throughout, what one could describe really as inhuman torture, inhuman ill treatment. We were exposed to torrential rains on the back of the illegitimate regime's police open trucks. This was my first experience, really, to see human beings being ferried in open trucks in heavy rainfall, loaded worse than even any commodity, because commodities are cared for. We were not cared for by those who had captured us. Let us warn Emerson Mnangagwa's illegitimate ZANU-PF regime that we will not succumb to its arm-twisting dictatorial tactics to silence us. This has actually strengthened our inclusive movement to make the bold declarations that we are going to pronounce today, here, now. After the vicious military attack on our meeting in Mutare on Saturday, 8 February 2025, the National Democratic Working Group reconvened on the disrupted meeting on Sunday, 16 February 2025, through the cyberspace and resolved the following. That in light of our press statement dated 15 January 2025, calling for resistance and rejection to the Mnangagwa crusade to extend his presidential term of office to 2030 and beyond, we welcome the support of our position, which has been endorsed by the progressive war veterans led by Comrades Blessed Bombshell Geza and Knox Chivero. The messages being spelled out by both Geza and Chivero resonate with the National Democratic Working Group's position from the onset. We stand firm in a mutual solidarity with each other, and we reassure them that we stand together high and low in this people's democratic struggle. The position as amplified by Comrades Geza and Chivero is the position of the masses of our people who are eager to see the completion of the mass democratic revolution in Zimbabwe. The revolution is upon us, fellow compatriots. We urge all churches, students, civil society organizations, workers of our nation, and the downtrodden masses of our people to stand firm in support of our position and that of the progressive war veterans of the armed liberation struggle. Truly, the armed liberation struggle was a people's struggle, to struggle for justice, emancipation, and also democratic values. The time is now or never. Freedom of our people is at the core of our struggle. This is a non-negotiable position that we cannot trade with anything. We deserve better than the 2030 nonsense as a nation. The time is now. Let us come together and complete the mass democratic revolution in Zimbabwe for the permanent good of our nation. I thank you.
Question and answer segment. We are now giving the floor to the media fraternity. We've actually graced this press conference to ask questions. You start about introducing yourself and then the organization we are coming from. Over to you, our journalists who have come to grace this press conference. In yellow, my brother, your name and the organization.
My name is Ryan Tan from 263 Jobs. My question is related to what the president said yesterday. He insisted on not extending his term of office. What will be your take?
Next one, is there any other one to come? Yes, my brother at the corner there.
Moyle, you singled out notably Mr. Blessed Gaza as someone who is actually perhaps in unison with your agenda as NDWG. By any chance or stroke of imagination, do you exchange notes with him? Are you working with him? Will you be working with him?
Okay, thank you for the question. Then the third question, so that you can respond. My friend in grey shirt.
My name is Yotam Kenny, I'm a freelance. So my question is there any program of action?
Yotam. Okay, thank you very much. It's now time for our panel to respond from the first question, which was asked relating to what President Mnangagwa said yesterday, where he hosted a journalist in an interface at State House. What's your position on what was said by the head of state in respect of the 2030 agenda? That is the first question. If we can ask, if we can answer that one.
Let me take that question. Thank you very much, our journalists here present and the panel in front of you guys. The first thing that I want to remind the people of Zimbabwe, if you are a leader, you are not supposed to be seen indicating left when you are turning right. To be frank and honest, if Mnangagwa was really meaning his words that he's going to leave the office at the end of his term, then definitely there was no reason why you could allow the other section of his organization, the ZANU-PF members, the other faction, to be seriously continuing talking about the 2030 mantra. So we are not kids, we are not young to be told that he, as he's explained that he's a constitutionalist, he is going to abide by the Constitution. And now we are very well informed that this constitutionalism he's talking about, he is now trying to arm twist the Constitution so that the 2030 mantra will be now put into the Constitution, then it will make him go through the amended Constitution. So we are not at any time accepting what he has said, because he's trying to play around with our minds as if we also as citizens do not think. So I just need to say, as citizens, our position still stands that he must go, either sooner or at the end of his term. Not anything, not any time beyond after that. So our position is he must go.
Are you answered? Then the second question is coming from our brother at the corner there, where he's asking the Geza and Associates revolution, which is really the pertinent issue trending in the country. He's asking, are we in a communication and any agreements between our organization and Geza and his team? You can also respond on that second question.
Thank you, Chair. Before I touch on that one, I simply need also to polish or clarify what CNO Mugari has already said. What concerns us as National Democratic Working Group and the people of Zimbabwe are utterances and actions of public government officials, starting with Emerson Mnangagwa as the person who occupies the post of president in this country. So the utterances by fellow MPs and ministers, cabinet ministers, and the government officials throughout is what this nation is talking about. The quarreling that may take place in the ZANU-PF political camp as a separate legal entity, separate from the government structure, is none of our business. And I'm sure in the nation it's none of their business, because ZANU-PF is a separate legal entity from government of Zimbabwe. It is the implications of the utterances and the actions by public officials that worry Zimbabweans. And that is the clarification I needed to add to what Engineer Mugari has said. On to the second question, relating to the what is commonly known now as the Geza Revolution. As National Democratic Working Group, we are a broad-based, inclusive, national consultative movement. And this was clearly spelled out when we were launched on the 8th of February in 2024, that an idea got introduced through the agency of Advocate Job Sikala, that an organization needed to be established to ask Zimbabweans about their lives, about their issues, about their grievances, so that the whole nation should gather at a People's National Convention, Dar Ravanu, Imbizo, where national issues will be tabled, debated, discussed, and resolutions passed. That is the objective or vision and objective of the National Democratic Working Group. It means, therefore, we are all embracing, and by the way, we have a department called the War Veterans Department in the National Democratic Working Group. When you look at the constituent bodies or institutions that are part of our movement, it doesn't leave any Zimbabwean out of reach. Therefore, from our constitution as National Democratic Working Group, we are all embracing and we are all inclusive. Let me move closer to perhaps what you had in mind when you say, are we exchanging notes? Here now, we are exchanging notes with the citizens who took part in the armed liberation struggle to bring about independence and democracy in our land. As expressed by the war veterans led by Wageza and Vanox Chivero, it is clear that the journey to establish democracy in Zimbabwe still continues 45 years after the 1980 independence declaration. So that was a verbal declaration, and the implementation of that declaration is still on course. It's actually intensifying. This is why the progressive war veterans, represented by Vageza and Vachuero, as you may have seen from the media, they were not only two, there were many, representing progressive liberation fighters from both the Zipra and the Zanla armies during the liberation struggle. So through this presser, we have conveyed huge messages of solidarity to the progressive war veterans. We have now become what I may call constructive allies. This is what is happening, because we are debating about governance of our country. You find that we resonate now with whatever we're saying now. We resonate with the good ideas, the good thinking, the good reason why this country went to war for democratic governance. The whole idea of civilian government based on one citizen, one vote, in a secret ballot decision making, in appointing a community leadership, what we call a government, central government and local governments. These institutions require input of every citizen, who should have complete freedom to decide on who to put in public office at both national and local government levels. And this is why the whole nation went to war with the colonial regimes that were based on skin color and based on minority interests. I had to be more elaborate there, Moyo, because we needed to be very clear on that. So we have a constructive alliance, therefore. Don't forget that on 15 January 2025, the National Democratic Working Group, representing Zimbabweans in this country, expressed the ideas that this is not the intention of Zimbabweans to fold their hands when there is someone or some group planning to impose a dynastic personal rule in Zimbabwe. The third question, program of action. I think from my elaborate answer to the second question, it is very clear that already there is a program of action ensuing and in place. But the National Democratic Working Group, on its part, is that we are embarked on a program to consult citizens of this country, marching towards the holding of a Democratic People's Convention, Dareravano Imbizo. And that is our objective as a movement. And what we are seeing now currently are happenings that affect the structure of government, which is part of the national activities of our country. But the National Democratic Working Group will remain on course. Whatever changes will take place within the government structure, which may involve the changing of the occupant of the office of the president, we will not be diverted by that or those changes. We will remain on course while other things are happening which may be positive in the country. As an action plan, we remain with that action plan as a movement. And the other developments will enrich our consultative process. Remember, as a consultative movement, we are already assembling data of what is happening in the country in various institutions, including institutions of government. And what the Geza revolution is doing is to add value to our research as we move towards the People's Democratic Convention, Dariravanu, Imbizo. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for such a comprehensive response from both our Chief National Organizer, Engineer Mugari, and Northern Region Facilitator, Dr. Zembe. Now we are giving you the floor once again. If there's any more questions coming from the media fraternity, you can ask questions and then we respond. My brother in black.
My name is Presidency from Zimbabwe TV. It's more like a follow-up from the first question, like what Dr. alluded. The Constitution is being manipulated, or they want to twist it to have way for the 2030 agenda. Is NDWG, what course of action or what plans do you have to safeguard the Constitution from being amended to pave way for the 2030 march?
Okay, thank you for that question. Anyone with another question? The second one. Bring up questions. We can respond to your question if there are no more questions coming. Thank you for the question. You can respond for the question which was asked.
Thank you very much. Ideally, a constitution represents the meeting of minds of all Zimbabweans. That should be an embodiment of ideas on how public affairs should be handled in our community, in other words, in our country. That is the idea. So a constitution remains in the minds and hearts of Zimbabweans, all citizens of Zimbabweans, wherever they are. What we are seeing is that we have a constitutional document in place. It's a constitutional document representing some constitutional values of our people. I've said some because the document itself does not represent the entirety of the values of Zimbabweans because of the manner in which it came about. The 2013 Amendment Act, 20th Amendment Act of 2013. That document is the one I think you are suggesting that it's being manipulated. And how do Zimbabweans safeguard themselves against this manipulation that may bring chaos, anarchy, disorder, and to the extent of bringing war in Zimbabwe? Because this abuse is serious. As National Democratic Working Group, we are already acting to safeguard good constitutional principles. Good constitutional principles that are now in the minds and the hearts of citizens of this country. The term limitations in this document, called the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment number 20, Act of 2013, is a value that truly was inspired by the citizens of this country. That they didn't want a one-party rule, they didn't want one-man rule, they didn't want one-person rule, because such types of rulership are not democratic. The democratic system of government is one which is people-driven, one which comes from the people through an ideology called a free and fair election, where every citizen of our country is given freedom to decide secretly through the ballot, secret ballot. So that is the value the National Democratic Working Group is seeking to protect, acting on behalf of the people. Since we are consulting, we've been consulting for a year now, and we have enough information that this nation rejects manipulations of the Constitution that will trigger more suffering in the country. We've had suffering since 1980, since 1980, it's 45 years now. And our nation desires to embark on a reform path, which we have just described here as transformative change. A transformative change is a change that adds value to our own lives, that brings on board new ways, new production systems, new harmony, new peace conditions. Rugare, rucha. We cannot continue to worsen the situation of poverty and economic destitution that characterizes our daily affair. Like you see the other time when we were in Mutari, we were very peaceful and were invaded militarily. Why would you use arms of war to citizens who are doing their business like we are doing here, peacefully, engaging in the process of thinking of new ideas, new strategies to ensure that we have better life in our community, here on earth, in our generation? Why would you deploy arms of war? Arrest, disrupt, torture? No. So the National Democratic Working Group is already defending the constitutional value of Zimbabweans. That term limitations have to be defended. You get it throughout the whole world, even in private companies. People never work for as long as 45 years in one position. Where have you ever seen that? Humans are limited in terms of their capacities. So the rotational processes and term limitations are by nature very democratic. Even in our own African culture, we have Ushemadzoro Hunoravanwa. It is a misrepresentation for some to say, hey, you can't remove a leader before another one, comes, or something like that. That is big nonsense. That is big nonsense. The issue is a human being is not like the sun. By the way, we have one sun. Sun, S-U-N. So this parading of ideas to say, if a constitutional write-up does not have what we require, like what we heard Mahia the other time saying, we will tore apart that constitution. This is the most uninformed statement. To start with, the Constitution is an intangible thing. It is the value, the understanding that citizens share. The document in which we enshrine such value is called a constitutional document. But you should know that a document itself is not the Constitution. It is what is reposed in it, what should represent the Constitution. So someone who thinks that if what I want cannot be obtained from a constitutional document, then I'll simply tore it down and then that's over. No, that's chaos, anarchy, and a high level of disorder. So the National Democratic Working Group shall defend progressive constitutional value and progressive constitutional order. That is how we are defending the Constitution, my brother. Other members of the team can amplify, add value as they see fit. Back to you, the chair.
To add, you have content with that. Ladies and gentlemen, are you exhausted in question and answer so that we can wrap up?
We have
Blessing Komo, you can actually come in.
Okay, I just want to add flavor on this. Yeah, it's like the issue of defending our constitution as a nation. As NDWG, we have already started, and we have already started. Yeah, I think as NDWG, we have already started working on this issue of defending our constitution. Because it's like, akusikutanga kuti Zimbabwe inomanipulate, in fact, ZANU-PF inomanipulate the constitution. But at the same time, pane pamwe pataimbotarisa zvichiitika, tichitarisa zvichiitika. But for now, I don't think as a nation we can hold our hands, tichitarisa vachiita zvavari kuita. Because in this constitution, pane pavaiti vanhu vanofanira vanhu vari kudiaspora, every person have a right to vote. But takaona vaMnangagwa vachidzivisa even vanhu vari kudiaspora kuti vavote. We have over 2 to 3 million vanhu vari kugara outside the country. And at the same time, if we look, what was the reason for our comrades to sacrifice themselves to liberate this country? The issue was all about what we want independence. Then when we get independence, we were expecting to, like, kubereka zvinhu zvitatu, zvinoti development, peace, then in a unity. Then after that, after we get independence, kuti tive ne-development muno munyika takaishewa, of which we're looking on issues like political development, social development, and economical development. Hapana zvinhu zvakakwanisa kuachivwa neZANU-PF. Then tadaro tikatarisa panyaya yeunity, even peace yachona, we have so many diasporans vari kugara outside the country. Unity, tiri kuti isusu unity begins even at home. Kudzimba amen ari kugara kuAustralia aine mukadzi ari muno muZimbabwe, vakatotiza mabasa muno kuti hamuna mabasa, then they go kunana diaspora kunotsvaka mabasa. At the same time, vanhu ivavo vanosangana nemaproblems akawandisa mudzimba dzavanenge vachigara because of distance. Saka munyika medu makatanga kuva nemaproblems akaita sana macases ana DVA akasimuka zvekuti munyika hamusisina peace. Beside that, peace yachona, even if you want like izvozvizvi mudzimai anogara kumba murume wake anohura 120, uchisvika kumba murume abva kubasa, pei yachona haana kupiwa, anosvika udzwa kunzi hamuna chikafu mumba, hamuna chakati. Mumba mukava muSupreme Court, hamuna mufaro, dzimba dzinoparara. So as a nation, this is not an issue inoda kutarisa zvakanyanya kuti ini ndiri munhu akaita sei kana ndiri munhu akaita sei. Ini zvinhu zviri kutariswa nevana veZimbabwe kuti according to the leadership yavaMnangagwa ndezvipi zvavakadhilivha zvinokwanisa kutibatsira isu semaZimbabwe. So we are saying hatisi kuzotarisa vaMnangagwa vachiti izvona vari kuda kunoextenda kusvika muna 2030. Pavakatombopinda pacho chii chavakaachiva chavakaita. Isusu we believe kuti Mugabe himself ane maprojects aakatotanga aakasiyira munzira only because he himself Mnangagwa said Mugabe wakundikana nezvinoti. And isusu we expecting kuti as long as iye ati Mugabe akundikana iye achaita zvinobatika. But it's like we are saying kuti the difference is the same. Otherwise Mugabe was a better moron or a better lunatic than this one. So isusu what we are saying today, we are saying isusu vaMnangagwa vakakundikana, vakatikonewera. In fact, vanhu vachienda kuhondo, we believe kuti vanhu vachienda kuhondo vane agreement yavanganga vainayo. But isusu taramba vanhu vanotora mukana sekodzero kuti wanzitungamira vanhu. Wobva waona sekuti wava nekodzero yekumanipulata kumbiro rakagadzirwa nevanhu vachiti tinoda zvino senyika, iwobva wati ini ndinoda chakati. Saka isusu tiri kungoti vaMnangagwa ende vanga vari munhu anonzwisisa, vakurumidza vati respecta, because hatina nguva yakanyanya yekuti tigone kutendekana, hatina nguva yakanyanya yekuti tigone kuramba tichikwesherana navo, but isu tiri kungoti kana vari munhu anonzwisisa vachizvinzwisisa kuti vakatadza kudhilivha mishonga muzvipatara, vakatadza kudhilivha mufaro, even happiness kwatiri semadzimai, even varume kana madzimai. Mudzimai anofara kana achiona murume wake achisvika mumba akabata something, but ukaona murume wako achisvika mumba achitadza kubata maputi, you feel like handina kuroorwa kana kuti pane zviri kuitika. So isusu tiri kuti our happiness panguva yatiri kurarama iyoyi semazimbabweans tinoda kumbofarawo, taneta nekuchema. We don't think kuti 2030 inosvika tiri right. The atmosphere is not favorable. This man has failed and it is the right time for him to step down. Vokuda zvavo zviri peaceful. If possible, tinokwanisa kutsvaga umwe munhu anokwanisa kutitungamirira, otherwise kuti temperatures ambova moderate for us as Zimbabweans. So as NDWG, we are ready for him and we have already planned kuti tichaita so. And I don't think it's right time for us to expose everything zvatakaronga nezvatakagadzirira, but garai makateerera, nguva ichikwana kana vachinge varamba vachiita nharo tichashandisa zvechisimba. When the atmosphere kana kuti when the situation isingadi peace, isusu when the situation demand war, we can go for a war. But if you need peace with us, vanofanirwa kumeka sure kuti vanofanirwa kuteerera zvatiri kutaura kuti makundikana munofanirwa kumbozorora. That's my thing.
Thank you, Blessing, for your input. You've heard it all, that there's nothing measurable which we can talk about the regime, which actually substantiates their argument that he must continue into office beyond 2028. It's just something which is a mockery to the nation, which does not yet have any value in terms of measurement. Media fraternity, thank you for coming for this press conference in your large numbers, and we appreciate your continuity in terms of coming to engage with us whenever we request your services. This has been quite a good press conference, which has got actually also a good number in terms of response. You have a nice day. We are now wrapping up our press conference as the time limitations are already put us on the hold. This is almost 12 midday. Thank you very much and enjoy your day. For those who want the press statement,